Hi, welcome back to my channel, and today I'll be showing you how to make this beautiful birthday card. So what I did for this was, I love flower designs and I decided to implement this from a photo off Pinterest. So here are a couple I've made. It's so flexible and you can use any color scheme you want, which is why I love this design, and I'm going to show you how to make it today. So you can make it for your friends, you can make it for your family. It's so flexible. I also covered the names here just for privacy reasons, but they are actual birthday cards that I did make for some family members and friends, and I wanted to show you what the different variations look like. So that one was a colorful version, this one's kind of a muted blue version, and this one's more of a pink version. So you want to start off with your materials. So have a colored piece of paper and a white sheet. That's because I think my markers bleed a little bit, so I want to have an inner liner for the card. I also use these dual tip drawing markers. They're alcohol based and they're really good for drawing and blending, so I love these very much. You also need some Sharpies or some fine tip markers. This is just for outlining, so you can even use a pen if you so desired. A glue stick is always good for gluing, and yeah, that's it. So to start off, once again, I took this image from Pinterest and I turned it into something of my own, so that was my inspiration, if you ever see that on Pinterest. And the first step is to always just glue the two papers together. The first step is to make the vine outline. This is completely optional, it's something I personally added because I love it. To do this, you will need to do 4 lines in a rectangle shape that are wavy because it's supposed to signify lines, and then on the lines you just want to draw leaves on every other end. And I drew very simple leaves. You can make this more complicated, you can make it more simple, but even the simple leaves leaves the design looking very nice, very classy, and it's something I use for nearly everything because of it. Once that's done, I like to use a dark color or black to write the happy birthday message. Usually I would include the name, but this is a general card, so I did not. And then I picked my colors, so I'm going for a more cool color scheme this time, as it's not something I've done, and also the person I'm making it for has a very cool color scheme, so that's why I chose these colors. And the first flower you're gonna make is very simple. You just draw these teardrop shapes in this design like this. You can just copy what I'm doing and you'd color them in and then fill in the spaces with 2 more of those. And when you color it in, it's gonna look like one big blob, so make sure to go over it in shade. You can kind of see that I did there. I just outlined the outside of the shapes so that it has a little bit of shape, but it's okay if it's not super defined because later you will use an outline marker or pen to do this. And I just duplicated it like this, and then on the next step this is a different flower. So I don't actually know any of these flower names, but there's this one. I don't really know how to explain the shape, but it's more of a bowl shape, and then I also colored it in here. And then after you do the bowl shape and shade it, I also used a green color to use it as the base of the stem, just like that. The third flower is a bluebell, I believe, but I'm making them purple here for color purposes. And to do this, it's almost like a circle, but at the end you want to dip it a little bit, and this indent just makes it easier to draw the leaves. And here I'm using a darker green to draw the leaves, and it's super simple. You just draw leaves at the bottom. This fourth flower is just a basic flower. You use the teardrop shape again, and it's pretty much the basic flower. And I also added this extra part just to make it a little bit more fancy, and then I colored it in. I duplicated this on the other side and I just mirrored it so the same flowers weren't on the same side. I did the exact same thing, and this is a good way to just see if there's any more room for any additional flowers, because as you can see here, I'm only using 4 different types, but I will later add a few more if there's space. Here's how the card is looking. So now that the base is done, it's time for details, and the first thing I'm going to do is take my Sharpie to add all the fine lines, and especially the stems. So the stems are really easy, you can have any freedom with this. For that second flower, I added some filaments or anthers on top, like the pollen, and this just connects all the flowers and it makes it look more like flowers and not just floating ones. Next is the fun part. This is the leaves, and leaves I think are so fun because they're so easy, yet they add so much more. So for the color flowers, I did more extravagant leaves, but for the bluebells, I did more rounded ones so that they matched the leaves that were already on there. And I also do 2 different greens for this just to add variety in color. You can add more, you can add less, it's totally up to you. And this is how it is looking. It looks pretty good, but I'm gonna add more, of course, because I just want this to be as full and busy as possible. So first I added some accents, some red dots, some yellow dots, just to fill in the little details and add more color. And then I used the Sharpie again to do the outline. The outline does not have to be perfect. I actually prefer the outline being a little bit messier than the color, going off the lines, not fully circling the object, going a little bit over, going a little bit under, and I think it makes an artistic effect. After I outline, I also add some details in the leaves, some details in the petals. For these bluebells, I also outlined it, but in the bluebell part, I actually put 3 dots on each one. It just gives it a bit more dimension, yet it's so simple. For this flower, I did the same thing, but I added lines on the main petal part, plus a dot at the end. Once again, this just gives it dimension, but it's also a super simple detail. And for the leaves, I did the same thing. So here's how it looks now that all the sides are completed, and I want more detail, so we're gonna add some additional leaves. Leaves are super easy. You just use oval shapes or rounded shapes. So easy. It's like a line with your thicker brushes or your markers, and you just add it everywhere. You can do different designs. Here I'm coloring in just a big fat leaf. I colored in a big leaf. And you can add scrawny ones, you can add full ones, you can add ones that are turning sideways, you can have one sticking up. There's so much freedom with them. And then afterwards I just like to outline it, and then after I outline it I will actually go back in with the marker and fill it in if there are any gaps. Here I'm adding the additional flowers, as I said before, because there's spaces, and I love to do roses because I think those don't need really stems, they're just flowers itself. So I start with just doing pretty much circles with uneven sides for the rose petals, and I first do this with the marker, that way you can just make a blob and it won't really matter. And I'm adding 2 little leaves on each side too, and then with the markers where the magic happens, and you just do, it's artistic, you just do circles and circles until it starts to look like a leaf, and then at the ends of the petals you just make the leaves bigger, and you do the same on the other side. So that's the flowers done, and as a really additional detail, I like to put a few red dots just to make that accent color pop everywhere. I only do about like 10 to 15 on the card, as you can see. And then to fill in the space even further, I take a black Sharpie and I just go crazy and I put dots absolutely everywhere. This is just an extra step I do, but I think it really fills in the space and creates the illusion that it's a flower garden. There's pollen in the air, magic in the air perhaps. I think it adds a lot, and it's very simple to do and very easy to do. And that is the card completed. thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video. This card is super simple to make and it looks really good at the end. So go make this card, impress some of your family members, and let me know how it goes. In the inside, I also just like to duplicate that border section again before I write the message. I think it adds a nice detail and it ties in the colors from before. And here are all my variants of cards now, and I can definitely say that everyone I gave it to definitely loved the cards, so I can guarantee you that whoever you make this card for, they will love it. Bye! See you next time.